Thank you for joining me in this wonderful holiday season. It's a 9 days till Christmas, I think it's something like that. Maybe by the time you guys see this, it may be very close to Christmas time, or maybe you're watching this after Christmas. Nonetheless, it's a great time of year to share with your loved ones and anyone that you can to um, bring out the best in us. I know the holidays also bring out the worst in some people, but for the most part, life is good. We did try to get scammed. We went to Walmart today, and this young lady comes up behind us and asks us if we'll trade $60 for a bunch of food stamps. Like what? Yeah, I think it's a scam going on out there. I don't know where she got these food stamps from, but anyway, that's another story for another day. Today's topic of discussion is twofold. All right, so I'm talking to the woke nation uh, because I can relate. I can relate to this because of my background and what I've done over the last say 30 something years. But it's just a word of advice. It's a word of caution um, to prevent you from going down the wrong paths. Because I see so many young people posting on social media sites that okay, they've been awakened and now they're going through the dark night of the soul, and all this stuff is happening to them, that all these bad things, I guess, they perceive these things as bad as happening to them, and they don't know why. I mean, because I guess they were expecting that once you're awakened, or I don't know if they have different terms for awakening than what I would uh, consider awakening. But yeah, so any type of claim, and when you're putting it out there on social media and you say I have awoken, any type of claim, almost in the spiritual realms or circles, I guess you could call them, those that are out there, saying that they're enlightened, the sadgurus, the awoken people that are, making these claims. A claim is basically of the ego. It's uh, it's the ego expressing itself, and I know it doesn't feel like that, or maybe you may disagree with that, but I mean, it's like one thing, you had this spiritual experience happen to you, and you want to share that experience with the world, and that's perfectly understandable. And I'm not denying anybody of that, but you have to be very careful with this, because the ego comes in back in through the back door, and it uh, basically destroys the goodness. Because in a way, existence is flowing at you when this awakening happens, or when you feel this certain sense of awakening at any level. Basically, uh, existence is rushing in. It's like the floodgates have been pulled back, and existence wants to pour itself into you. But when you start making claims, what happens is the door gets shut, and then existence is still trying to flow at you, but you can't feel existence's flow anymore, because you've basically the ego destroys any spirituality that you might have, or any contact with your higher self, or with God, or what you want to call existence. So be very careful with that. It's cool to be awakened, and to know you're awakened. um, I don't know if I would broadcast it to the whole world. Just be careful about that, and remember that if you're having problems and you feel like you're having the dark night of the soul over and over and over again, some people have said they've been the dark night of the soul for 2 or 3 years. It's like, it's not necessary. It's excuse me. It's uh, this journey we go on from chaos to the cosmos. And in this journey, when you've left, like I said, society, when you've left the comfort of friendship with those that basically have false centers, and they want you to have a false center too. So they're ego-based people. When you leave that comfort, uh, then yeah, you enter kind of like a sense of darkness because it's unknown. But if you make the journey through the unknown and delete the ego, every every time the ego tries to come in, that's why we practice awareness so much. Is that every time the ego tries to come in and take over, it's subtle, so sometimes you don't notice it. But basically, this, if you're self-conscious, then anytime you're self-conscious, then the ego has come in and uh, Osho kind of put it like in one of his books that it's kind of like when you're in the shower or when you're in the bathroom by yourself, you may make funny faces in the mirror, you may sing, you may dance, you do all kinds of crazy things when you're in the bathtub by yourself because you think nobody's watching. But as soon as somebody or seems like they're maybe peeking through the keyhole, then your attitude changes, and then you're not silly, you're not childlike anymore. And then you get all serious, and you become in a way self-conscious because others are watching. Um, so to dissolve that, basically, then you have to learn to be totally conscious and not self-conscious. And when you're totally conscious, it's like being healthy. When you're healthy, you're not ill, right? So when you're healthy, there's nothing to define what healthy is, but yet we all know what it is because we feel this great feeling about us. And most of the time, my personal self, I'm probably about 99 to 98% always happy and healthy. I am human, and I do have my faults, and I'm not saying I'm perfect in any way, but most of the time I feel pretty good. Uh, it gets stressed when I have to work long hours, just like everybody else. But even then, I kind of just have this retrospect. I close my eyes and I say, how do I feel? And most of the time I can answer myself by saying, I feel pretty good. Yeah, I'm all right. And you can check yourself sometimes, even in the hardest of times. You can just kind of like close your eyes and say, how do I feel? Am I doing okay? And if you answer that like you're not okay, then you have to address that situation. But for the most part, this self consciousness, anytime it comes in, then you're not healthy. It takes away from your healthiness. It takes away from your spiritual essence. Because in a way, I kind of had this vision when I was very young. But like two eggs side by side, they how to explain this? They have like a liquid inside of them, and then outside there's the shell that protects it from all of existence. But um, this is so hard to do live. Uh, so the the egg basically can't uh, dissolve until the eggshell is broken away, and then the little bird that the chick that comes out of the egg can't breathe until the egg's shell has been shed. And basically, our egos are these eggshells, um, and we need to shed basically the ego shell before we can spiritually grow. Um, you can go to a point physically, maybe emotionally and intellectually to a certain point. But when you start working on the spiritual body, when you start growing spiritually, then the ego has to be dropped. Now, for the physical body, the intellectual body, and the emotional body, maybe the ego might be necessary for a little while, but in the long run, it doesn't need to be there. In the spiritual, to grow spiritually, you have to drop it. And then you got to be aware. Like I said, we practice awareness all the time. We have to be aware all the time of it trying to come in the back door. So by me telling you things like, watch it when you're self-conscious, that's the ego controlling you. If you want, you want respect from other people, then you think you have to act a certain way. And I'm not saying that's false or true or anything like that. I'm just saying watch it and be yourself. Um, be yourself, and I wouldn't say don't worry about what other people think. Just be totally conscious of what you're doing every moment. Which leads me to the next subject that I wanted to talk about. By being totally conscious and being simple, being not in a way, how do I express this? Like being conscious of your not behavior, but basically be conscious of your existence. But that's not the don't confuse that with being self-conscious, but just be conscious and aware, and you'll catch yourself every time the ego tries to come in the back door. But if we practice awareness and we meditate and we are conscious of every time the ego tries to come in the back door or tries to take over our lives, if we catch it every single time and don't give it anywhere to go, then it can't resurface itself like an eggshell would kind of resurface itself and grow back over you. You don't need that layer of protection anymore when you get to a certain point in your spirituality. And talking about a point in spirituality, I'm going to bleed this into another topic. So there's this thing when you meditate, and it can happen to beginner meditators too. So you don't have to think this is somewhere far off in the future. These things can happen to you when you meditate as a beginner too. You might lock into it, or you might hear this conversation that I'm sharing with you, and I'm going to give you some tips and insights on how to experience what they call samadhi, and share what I know about this beautiful thing. So I guess I started experiencing samadhi very young. When basically, I don't know how I stumbled into it. I think it was kind of funny. It's kind of dumb and silly, but I felt like if I could create gaps of no thought in my meditation, that would create space for something else to come in there. Or maybe a space for us to go back and reset the clock and fix things right or something. I don't know. It's kind of a silly idea, but anyway, it worked though. The trick worked. And when I meditated, I would have like long gaps of no thought and where my mind is completely still. And if you do that long enough, and you become receptive and don't expect anything, don't look for anything, and never meditate for a purpose, just meditate for the beauty of meditation's sake itself. And when you get into these long gaps of no thought, then you switch centers into a spiritual center. We all have a spiritual center, which is the true center. Then we have these ego centers, which are the false centers. The ego center is basically on the periphery, and at the center of of your existence is a spiritual center. And you can feel that shift when you meditate. And if you meditate and you're in that true center and your mind is still, in a way, you start dissolving uh, into into existence. That's the only way I could describe it. I know I've heard that other people that try to describe what I'm talking about go into states of pure bliss just talking about it. But I think I can get through this. So, like I said, this is kind of hard to do live, but I'm doing the best I can. But anyway, so you dive into this state of no thought, and then you shift centers, and then a certain amount of energy goes upward through your chakra systems, and you don't even have to focus on the chakras as a lot of people think you have to do to raise energy up through them. When you're activating samadhi, basically you're activating the throat chakra, the third eye chakra, and the crown chakra. The three levels of samadhi coincide with the top three chakras. And I know this all sounds a little crazy and sounds like, well, does this guy really know what he's talking about? But when you've experienced these things, then you can talk about them and you can share them. And the reason why I'm bringing this out now and sharing it now is because there's been some concern on the internet, as to people, beginner meditators who have experienced a little bit of samadhi. And once they experienced it, they didn't really know what it was, but then they lost it. They couldn't obtain it anymore. So here I'm trying to share with you a few techniques, a few things I've learned along the path to continue to experience that samadhi state. So yeah, there's three levels of samadhi. They coincide with the top three chakras, and these top three chakras have more to do, believe it or not, with the other world, with the spiritual realm, than to do with the animal or materialistic essence about us. Yeah, I got my dog right here. Hold on a second. Everybody say hi to Mealer. Hey, Mealer. Oh. So anyway, she's hanging out with me. Anyway, so yeah, the top three chakras, like I said, have more to do with the afterworld, or the existence of where the spirit meets the animal. The heart chakra is in the middle, and then the lower three chakras go down to the root chakra. And basically, if you're raising energy and you're getting into samadhi when you meditate, you're opening up the channel the whole way up. So this kundalini energy, they call it, rises up through your chakras and starts opening up the crown chakra. And the thing about samadhi is that a lot of times you won't know that you are in samadhi until you come out of it, right? So you sit down for meditation, and the thing you have to remember is that if you want samadhi to come, you can't expect it. You have to be kind of like childlike. You have to be innocent and receptive. If you can do those things, if you can be receptive and not be fearful, and allow for existence to basically pour into you as you dissolve into existence. So basically, kind of you switch places. So you can call existence God, you can call existence whatever you want, but in a way, in the crown chakra, the nirvanic level of samadhi, you dissolve into existence, and while you're gone out of your body, existence dissolves into you. But it's so finite that none of it can be shared. And if there's any self-consciousness going on, That's why I brought this in earlier and talked about self-consciousness and ego earlier. If there's any self-consciousness go on, then samadhi never happens. If you expect samadhi, if you're just sitting there looking for it, waiting for it, that's not being innocent. That's not being receptive. That's kind of being assertive. Just the subtle art of looking prohibits samadhi from happening to you. So, yeah. So what happens is eventually if you get 51% of your energy past the heart chakra or into the heart chakra, I could say, then a occurrence happens in your life. And some people call that occurrence an awakening. Some people that do beginner meditations, and they get into a couple deep meditations, and maybe they were just innocent. And in the beginning, you are basically ignorant. You don't know what's happening or what to expect. And that's kind of beautiful in a way, because then you're childlike again. As soon as you start expecting things to happen, a lot of people hear that when you're awakened that you're given gifts. And it is kind of true that every enlightened person receives gifts. And enlightened people is another term for awakened people. Even though there are people out there that call themselves awakened who do not consider themselves enlightened yet. So Miller, let me let you down, baby. So anyway, so 51% of your energy gets into the heart chakra. Then the miracle happens, an awakening and enlightenment. But enlightenment is basically samadhi, where you get to see everything. You get to see the exchange of godliness entering you, and then you entering into godliness, this merging, this egg yolk that dissolves, and the eggshell is broken and it dissolves and turns into the chicken and everything. So I guess all that can be said is that the nirvanic level of samadhi only happens in deep meditation. And I found myself when I lie down to go to bed, or if I close my eyes sometimes, or if I'm just in a dark room, once your third eye is open and once your throat chakra is open, then you visually see the first two levels of samadhi. And the first level of samadhi basically has more to do with, like I said, with the spiritual world, and where spirits and those that are not in body exist. And we pass through that level when we go to sleep sometimes. When you go into certain dream states, I think you pass through this level. I've called it the ninth, and I've called it the ninth for a purpose, because realization came to me how all the 11 dimensions basically lined up with our 3 dimensions of what do you call it, that are materialistic, which can be seen. And the 4th dimension is time, and then the 5th dimension lines up with all the with the root chakra. And each chakra is basically, when you open it and discover it, is a certain dimension. So you work your way up through these chakras, and like I said, 51% of your energy is shifted into the other spiritual realm. Then you've got 1 foot in each door. You're still in animal form, but you're now you, I don't say can communicate with other spirits, but it's a lot easier for them to guide you through your life. And I kind of think that all of existence, I know this sounds crazy, but all of existence, if you're not in a body, if you passed away, everything in existence works to help the living. To, I mean, think about that. Not just spirit guides and God Himself, or herself, or however you want to call it, but everything and everyone is here to help us survive and stay alive and cope with everything we have to cope with. And I think that's kind of beautiful to think about it, that all of existence is basically, in a sense, a heaven. And this all kind of uh, comes to us through the throat chakra. And then the energy from there pushes down to the heart. And they say that the heart is where God lives in us. And if you've got 51% of your energy raised up into that heart chakra, then you're going to experience something pretty cool. And it's just going to be this like, oh, wow, God really does exist in us. But I think the reason that most people never experience it is because they've never raised that 51% energy up. It takes like a full-blown effort. Uh, um, it could mean a lot of meditation, or it could mean a little meditation, depending on the person. And uh, if you meditate a lot and you're pure, you're innocent, you're receptive, and you allow yourself to go into samadhi, then, like I said, you're going to have one foot in each door. And Mila's kind of begging to go out, but I think she'll be okay for a second. But I guess we should maybe wrap it up and end it there. I don't know. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about, like the three levels of samadhi, how to get in it, how to keep getting into it. I don't meditate a lot like I did when I was younger. I meditate when I know I'm not going to expect anything, when I just want to do it for the pure enjoyment of meditation. And that's kind of the trick you have to learn, is that um, you have to go into meditation with no expectations, just letting yourself dissolve. Give yourself a moment. And it's like taking a bath, a spiritual bath. Every time you meditate, hey, baby, every time you meditate, you just dissolve into existence and let existence dissolve into you. And every time you meditate, you may not experience or get the energy up into the crown chakra. You may get it into the throat or the third eye, um, but uh, even that helps, because it's moving energy where it needs to be for you to um, move on and develop and mature spiritually. And I would say even physically, or as you deal with life getting older. I mean, I'm 59 years old now. That's crazy to even think about. And I've experienced so much. And like I said, I still meditate uh, often, but not like crazy like I did when I first got into spirituality. Um, a lot of things have changed in my life, and um, I think I still. People might ask me, well, why do you still meditate if you've already reached the other shore? If all these things have happened to you, and it's kind of like a residual thing. Someone once asked me, when I got divorced from my wife, why I seek the company of women still. It's not like you need it. If you get yourself to a spiritual level, then you don't need the companionship of another person. But I've just become accustomed to companionship with other people, and I quite enjoy the companionship and the partnership of life. And it's not needed; it's not a necessity. Um, but anyway, my dog is telling me I gotta go let her out. So anyway, I guess we should end this. much love and aloha and God bless and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and all these great good things for